indigenous music. A place far away in Qinghai. Maila in Yili. Lift your veil in Kucha. And Alamuhan in Turpan. Now, Travelog salutes this adventurous musician. We follow his footsteps, bring you the true color of this amazing part of China. Travel with Travelog.
This is a folk song the Uyghur people called Lift Your Veil. It was collected and adapted by Han Chinese musician Wang Lobin and let it know all over China. All the Chinese love it. Today we follow this wonderful music to Xinjiang, Kucha and Kurle. Let's unveil another beauty of China.
The vastness of Xinjiang is breathtaking, and the beauty of it leaves you gasping. The road stretches on and on and on, and landscape looks so close, yet so far away. The sheer scope of nature here leaves our car looking like a little ant, moving under the equally endless sky. Heaven is indeed pretty close here when you look at the land below. The folk song Lift Your Veil was born here in Xinjiang and originally sung by the Uyghur people. The famous Chinese Han musician and music collector Wang Lubin took this song out to the rest of the country. Now we are going back to the heart and soul of it. The bizarre terrain looks barren and boundless. This land has been sculpted by a strong wind that always blows in the same direction and the gentle erosion of occasional rains. Sitting in the middle of this landscape is the city of Kucha, our destination, and a little green oasis in the desolate cradle of the Gobi Desert. The city of Kucha is quite small, but it was once an important stop on the ancient Silk Road. Kucha was also once the center of the ancient Chuzhi kingdom. For over 1,000 years, the mighty kingdom flourished. But now, few traces of that glory are left. Only the great stories live on. Kucha city is divided into the new district and the old. In the old district, you can find the main mosque in Kucha, generally called the Kucha Mosque. It's the second largest mosque in Xinjiang, right after the Idakar Mosque in Kashgar. On Friday, the road near the old bazaar starts to choke up with all kinds of transportation, all heading in one direction, to the market.
Isn't it exotic? I'm taking a horse, a donkey taxi to do some shopping. Over there, that's the biggest bazaar over there, the biggest local market around the region. And I got lots of things to buy. Most of all, I'm going to get some wonderful music.
The bazaar is the biggest event of the week. Thousands of people from far and near come here for some business and fun. The market is like a huge palette carrying a vibrant mix of all the dynamic colors of the local life. What you find here is different. It's not like the bazaar in Urumqi, which expressly targets tourists. This is a real trade center for the locals. Along with many commodities, you can taste many good things. Especially recommended are the melons. All these sights and sounds on tape are more than enough to satisfy my thirst of curiosity about the local life. The typical headwear of the Uyghur people adds a touch of exotic, as people here wear them with such style, be they simple or intricately embroidered jobs. Friendly, cheerful, spontaneous, and generous. These are the words that come to my mind to describe these people. When we were finished at the market, my friend Aliyah takes me to visit a typical Uyghur home. Aliyah takes me to visit a typical Uyghur home. There is a story about this song, which Wang Luobin also collected when he adapted this humorous music from a Uyghur tradition. Around harvest time, the Uyghur farmers would gather together to have some fun. And as one of the diversions, an old man would dress himself like a woman, with a handkerchief covering his face. At the end of this little game dance, the veil would be whipped off and the old man revealed, much to the mirth of the crowd around. And the background music would be the famous "Lift Your Veil." Wang Luobin adapted it into Mandarin and turned it into a much-loved favorite with the rest of the country. The ride on the donkey cart is actually pretty comfortable and relaxing. At the end of the ride, Aliyah took me to a nice Uyghur courtyard in Kuzhe, to her uncle Yatsen's home. The little garden is filled with flowers and plants that thrive in the dry heat of Xinjiang. And the Uyghur people are hugely welcoming to guests. Even if you were a stranger, they would welcome you with wholehearted hospitality, offering all they have, from tea to fresh fruits to dried fruits to homemade yogurt to refresh you. The grape arbor provides blissful shelter from the relentless sun, and to sit here in such a comfortable courtyard and enjoy a moment of cool breeze under the grapevine is a real treat in itself.
Of all the food here, this is my favorite, homemade yogurt. It tastes pretty sour, so I put a lot of sugar in it. Tastes terrific.
Another favorite Uyghur dish is what they call la tiaozi. Basically, it's noodles with a special kind of carefully prepared sauce. The sauce is a scrambled mixture of beef and vegetables such as tomato, beans, eggplant, cabbage, onion, and green peppers. The process of flinging the noodle dough around guarantees a texture that is both resilient and soft. You may choose to have the noodle hot or cold. After dinner, Aliyah gave me an original version of Lift Your Veil in its original Uyghur language. It's slightly different from the Van Lobin version, but if you listen carefully, the merry essence and humor of the song remains the same. Kilometers north of Kuche, the Little Oasis, we arrive at the mountain range of Tian Shan, which means Mountain of Heaven. And those people call these mountains Ketzlia, which means the Red Mountains. And we are going to visit a mysterious canyon hidden inside. The Great Canyon glows red if you come at the right time, when light plays tricks on the humongous rocks. Floods do often visit here, and that's why we have the reef at the entrance of the canyon. This mountain was formed about 140 million years ago during the Cretaceous Age. After eons of pummeling and stroking and lashing by wind and rain, the rock formations have developed their own utterly original character. The complete hike to the other side of the canyon is some 5,000 meters, and it takes you about 2 hours. The canyon is not that famous around the country, so not many people come here. It's more or less untouched by human intrusions. So if you listen very carefully, It's one of those places where you can hear the land singing old songs to itself. The rocks were here long before people arrived, but nevertheless, on the mottled scale, the traces of civilization left around here are amazing enough. The ancient Qiuzi kingdom was a bridge between the cultures of the East and the West, and the region is littered with many Buddhist caves with murals, Buddhist temples, and many other ruins that bear witness to the long history. On the road between Kucha City and the Great Canyon, you'll find the Kizergaha Beacon Tower. Built during the West Han Dynasty, it's more than 2,000 years old. Standing 13 meters high with a base parameter of over 20 meters, it's one of the best preserved of its kind in Xinjiang.
This ancient beacon tower reminds me of Wang Laobin. It passed on military massive in ancient times, and Wang Laobin passed on music heritage. He's the one who allowed the rest of the country get to know those wonderful, wonderful music in northwestern China. His mission accomplished, his legacy remains.
Desert, the biggest desert in China. We made a little detour into it before arriving at Korla, which is some 5 hours drive east of Kucha. The desert landscape is dramatic, but after a while, it becomes mesmerizing. The desert can change its nature at very short notice. You can be in this golden landscape, then suddenly out of the blue, so to speak, you can find yourself being whipped by filthy grit in a devastating sandstorm. Withstanding all these years of wind and sunshine on the desert, these are legendary poplar trees. Apparently, they lived for 1,000 years, and they have remained standing another 1,000 years after their death. And for a third 1,000 years, they will not rot. For quite a while in Chinese history, the Kucha dancing and singing has been famous all over the country. It has been immortalized in poetry. Many a famous poet, including the most famous one, Li Bai, have sung their praise. The songs and dances might not be quite the same today, but the talents have passed on, along with a continuous quest for beauty. For a brief time, the desert is a great, great playground. And it's splendid. But think twice if you feel like moving in as a permanent resident.
This is certainly not a very friendly environment, beautiful as it is. Now in his book, Wang Laobin says, I walk along the border of the desert year-round, and my feeling is that the more harsh the environment is, the more imaginative the people are. Now coming to think of that, I think it's quite true. Look around, the endless desert without one drop of water, and think of the Uyghur people and their beautiful music. Wish I could get some inspiration here. I've lost count of time. How many hours? We're still in the desert.
Following a visit to the biggest desert in the country, we arrive at China's biggest freshwater lake, the Boston Lake, less than an hour's drive outside Korle City. The lake covers a total area of more than 1,000 square kilometers. Under a cloudy sky, it glows here in the desert.
This is incredible. It's hard to imagine there's such huge amount of fresh water in the big, big Gobi Desert. And that one is called the Big Boston Lake. Naturally, it has a little brother, the Small Boston Lake. Reminds me of somewhere in southern China. Listen to the birds.
The little brother bristles with reeds. A ride in a fast boat on a waterway like this with the Gobi Mountains looming is quite a cool experience. You have everything you need for a sandy seaside resort. The sunshine, the blue water, the golden beach. So don't forget to bring the bathing suit. One explanation for the source of this water is that it comes from the snowmelt at the top of Tianshan Mountain. Yet it remains a mystery as to how such amount of water accumulates amid the vast desert. From the Great Lake, we head further northwest to the legendary Baiyin Buluke grasslands.
Now I believe each land has its own character, and that character influenced the people living on it. This is Baiyin Buluke grassland, and here live the Mongolians. In this grassland, we need to listen to some Mongolian music.
Just like the music, the land is boundless and lends you a sense of cutting free. Wang Laobin had never been here. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have had a great time here too. The Baiyin Buluke grassland is the biggest highland grassland in China. In Mongolian language, Baiyin Buluke means rich spring water. The green grassland amidst the snow-capped Tianshan Mountains is the home of the Mongolians. Many of them still lead a nomadic life and live in their traditional yurt.
大家了。
来，请喝茶。
谢谢。They offered me some milk tea, and we have everything here that Mongolians offer to their guests, like solid yogurt, some butter, and some bread. But the most precious thing they offer to you is their songs, and I'm going to ask her to sing a song for us. 您能帮我唱首歌吗？
好，欢迎你。
蒙古族的歌。
欢迎你唱一句我们蒙古歌。美丽的快乐是，美丽的快乐是想念自己的亲人，就这样表扬唱的歌儿给你唱一句。
好呢。The tradition here goes that they will not stop singing unless you drink the wine they offer you. And before drinking it, you need to pay tribute to the heaven, the earth, and yourself. The songs are soaring and uninhibited. Somehow you get the feeling that only people living a carefree life on such boundless fertile land could express themselves in such an open way. This grassland is not exactly the kind that's knee-deep in grass. That's because it's at such a high altitude. The grass won't grow tall here. Yet the local people are very proud of it. They say it's very nutritious. They'll tell you their cattle grow robust and strong on it.
这是我的家，奔驰的骏马，洁白的羊群，还有你姑娘。
The treasured centerpiece of the Bayan Buluku is the Swan Lake. A huge area of swamp made up of many lakes. This is where more than 10,000 swans come to spend the summer before they migrate to the south. You know why the swan made this place their home? The local people told me proudly. That's because the swan only stay at the most beautiful place.